Congrats to the inductees and thanks to the committee. Special shout out to my good friend Dave Taylor. I never met a finer gentleman than Dave. Thanks to him and Gail for letting me coach, the privilege of coaching Eric. There's only one thing I'm probably worse at than public speaking, and that's golf. And I notice a lot of people are doing that right now, so you've probably been out on the course with me or heard me speak. So I'll do my best. This is speech B for me, not speech A. So speech A is the one where I get really emotional and you find out how much of a big baby I am. So I'm going to try to keep this light and not make this drudgery for you. I heard a quote recently from a man named Richard Simmons III, not the little guy in the short shorts that ran around, who was on TV, from a book called The Power of a Humble Life. He said, all you are and all you have is a result of others contributing to your life or a gift from God. I believe that. Renee said the theme of this speech should be why I love basketball and not spend the whole speech thanking everyone, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's impossible not for me to thank the people who deserve it the most. First of all, there's a contingent of gentlemen that are here tonight that would thank their affection for basketball to a certain man. Many of them deserve to be right here where I am. Their accolades in this great game are plentiful. Would my friends from Plattsburgh please stand up? Those are guys that could really put the ball in the hole, but I will say most of the assists they had were off the court. Not really. The man I'm speaking to was their high school coach and mine, Ray Holmes, who happens to be my dad. His passion and love for basketball has had an amazing influence on so many people, especially myself. He wasn't just our coach for basketball, but our coach for life. I think I speak for those gentlemen when I say my teammates and still my very best friends that we still feel his love and hear his voice every day. We lost him in 1991 to cancer. Speaking of my parents, I would run out of adjectives to describe their influence on myself and my brother and sister. They taught us that things happen for a reason and the value of hard work and perseverance. My mother is 91, and she'll see this speech one day. My message to her is that I love her, and she's a true, unsung hero of our family. I'm going to talk a little bit about my family, in fact, boast a little bit. In 1937, my uncle Jack Rentz started playing varsity basketball at Stillwater High School. Almost every year since, there has been someone from our family involved as a player and or coach at the varsity high school or college level. I'm not going to list everyone because it would probably take the full 10 minutes, but I will say the accomplishments and achievements are plenty, and probably more than 90% of them are mine. So I'm the lucky one to be part of a family that has made basketball, coaching, and education such an important priority. In preparing this speech, a word that kept coming to me was lucky. My wife Lynn doesn't like that word, so I will say extremely fortunate instead to describe my experiences in basketball. Speaking of education, my family has more than just a few teachers in our history. My parents, my sister, my brother and his wife, my wife, aunts and uncles, and my maternal grandmother. I want to recognize my good friend from Plymouth State College who surprised me here, and a New Hampshire College legend, Paul Hogan. Paul, would you please stand up? Paul drove all the way here from Detroit from a wedding to be here, and I really, really appreciate it. I've received many nice messages from many people. The ones I treasure the most are from my former players. It's meant the world to me. I look out and I see faces of men I've had the privilege to coach at Shaker. A lot of really good players that played at higher levels but are even better men. The good part is they're here, and the great part is they still talk to me. To be able to work with them towards a common goal is an experience that is difficult to describe. I will say thanks for putting up with me. Once again, I use the word treasure to describe you and our experiences together. You are forever in my heart. I had a lot of great people to work with at Shaker. I tried to assemble a staff of people that really cared about players, had a passion for the game, and wanted to build a successful program. I heard the phrase, in order to be successful, it's important to surround yourself with great people. I really tried to do that. I'm thankful for gentlemen that like Steve DeMarco, who was my JV coach for 22 years, Michael Brem, who was with me for 12 years, Leo Ryan, my high school teammate, one of my best friends, former players like Jamie Haber and Frank Hart, great guys like Steve Gillespie, Nick Verdile, Mike Cavada, Steve Sheffer, Guy DeBacco, Joe Landers, and of course Dave Taylor. Speaking of Shaker, I was extremely fortunate to get a position as a phys ed and health teacher and JV basketball coach in the summer of 1987. I don't know why they took a chance on me, but I really hadn't done much at that point in my career. But my family kept telling me that things happen for a reason, and coming in second place or worse for other jobs was part of a bigger plan. 3 years later, I was a varsity coach at Suburban Council, coaching against great coaches like Jim Zullo, Dave Faust, Damian Fantazzi, Bob Smith, on and on. Talk about an education. Thanks to Shaker for rolling the dice. To have a brother and sister like I do makes me, again, amazingly fortunate. Not just by blood. They're the best friends and supporters a guy could possibly have. I love you both. There's a place in heaven for a coach's wife. My mother was one too, so. Shaker not only gave me an amazing opportunity as an educator, he gave me a wife, a fellow teacher who is retiring at the end of this year as an elementary band teacher. Please give it up for my wife, Lynn. Lynn has been the rock of our family and our biggest supporter. As much as she is my biggest fan, I'm even more hers. Finally, we raised 3 young men that we're extremely proud of. All 3 have their college degrees, and they all played sports at the collegiate level. All were in Lynn's band, too. It was really a gift for me to be able to coach 2 of them, and I've always said my only regret for giving up coaching when I did was I didn't have the opportunity to coach my youngest. I can't tell you how much of an honor this is to me. I found out tonight that this is a Jerry Welsh Award. Jerry has been a big part of my life, a tremendous family friend. I just treasure the guy, and I treasure the relationship I have with him. I will tell one story before we go. A lot of people have asked me how to deal with parents as a high school coach. I'll give you an example of how I dealt with one issue when I was coaching James, my oldest son. I brought up the story at the end of our season banquet one year. After I gave the obligatory closing remarks, I mentioned that I only had one parental problem all year, and it took me a while to solve it. In the meantime, the parents are looking at each other and wondering who the culprit was. So I announced the solution. I sat down with my wife and said, "Look, you got to let me coach this team." Thank you, Rennie. Thank you, committee. This is an honor that I can't even express in words. Thank you so much.